Okay, let me just bring up the text.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. Good morning. All right, let's get started. Okay, I hope you can see the screen up. All right. We're still in the Likutim, which is case histories. And we're talking about the prohibition of, or the curse of Mishpat, that a person has to accept upon himself if he has already paid the money, but has not yet taken possession of the object. Technically, he has not acquired the object yet, but our sages say that if at that point he wishes to go back on the deal, he accepts the curse of Mishpat. And what we learned yesterday is that what this means is that he can be summoned to Beis Din, and in front of the Beis Din, they say that if you don't go through with the deal and you insist on getting your money back, you hereby accept the curse that the God who took vengeance upon the people of the flood and of the Tower of Babel and of the Egyptians, who were oppressive people and didn't keep their word, he shall also take vengeance from anyone who does not keep his word and go through on a deal. Okay, so with that, we are continuing. Kana bakesef umes. Okay, everyone see it's on the bottom of the first column of the Likutim. Kana bakesef umes. Let's say a person puts down money to purchase an object and Nebuch passes away before he has a chance to go through with the deal. Pligi be haposkim im shayach mishapara biyorshim. Well, there's a machlokas in the poskim whether the heirs have an obligation to go through with the deal, and if they refuse, they have to accept upon themselves a curse of Mishapara. Ve'im lo hayo rak dvarim ba'alma, o shehivtiach laseis matanim u'etes, ayin lekamen sif beis. And if this was not a sale, but if it was just, there was no money put down, or there was a sale, but it was just a verbal agreement. It was just a contract, an oral contract. Or let's say the decedent had promised to give a gift, whether the heirs have to follow through on that, on a promise that their father had made. This is something that we'll get into in the next sif, in the next code. Okay, let's go on to the next case history. B'makom shederach hasochrim liknos al yidei shetokea kapo lechavero. In kain kana af im lo nasan ma'os dahabi kisitumta. There's a concept in the Gemara called situmta, which is the convention of sellers and buyers, that the Gemara says that even though there's normally a fixed method of kinyan, when it comes to chattel, you have to pick up the item or you have to pull the item. When it comes to real estate, you have to issue a shtar, a contract, and so forth. But there's something called situmta that's addressed by the Gemara, which is the standard method that is used by buyers and sellers of the locale. And the convention is that a handshake is considered situmta. If, let's say, two people make an oral agreement, and in addition to making the oral agreement, they say, do we have a deal? Yes, we have a deal, and they shake hands. So the question is the handshake considered to be a consummation of the sale or not, according to halacha? Skip the parentheses, but that this is this is considered to be a finalization of sale according to some poskim, but v'dafka b'makom shehaminag hu barur upashut lakol. But that's only when it's clear that the handshake is the finalization of the deal. As I mentioned the other day, in the diamond industry, people do deals on a handshake. But in other industries, a handshake is not indicative of the final sale. And so therefore, it's not so clear in other industries whether the handshake is considered to be a kinyan. He says, Da'al pirov tekiyas kaf bizmanenu, eno ela hischayvos, aval eno kinyan gomor. He says, so Rav Stern writes, in most situations, a handshake is an indication that I commit myself to do a sale in the future, but it is not the act of the sale itself. It is not the kinyan itself. So that, for example, that two gentlemen make a deal orally, they shake hands on it, and then the merchandise gets destroyed in a fire in the possession of the seller. Noagin shahahefsid hu ala mocher. So the convention is that the seller has to assume the loss. It's not that the buyer now has to put down money for a piece of merchandise that was destroyed. V'chein le'inyan isser chametz, sheyehudi kona migoy yain tzaref v'chedoma yedei tkiyas kaf al yedei contract. He says the same thing would be true regarding purchasing chametz on Chol HaMoed Pesach. He says, let's say a person has an opportunity to purchase. A Jew has an opportunity to purchase chametz on Chol HaMoed Pesach at a significant discount. So that would give him a heter to engage in buying and selling during Chol HaMoed, what you're not normally supposed to do. But let's say he has an unbelievable opportunity, and so under certain circumstances he would be permitted to do so. Would he be allowed to orally agree or even shake hands with a non-Jewish seller of chametz on Chol HaMoed? Does that, he can't make a kinyan, he can't acquire chametz over Pesach, but can he shake the hands? Or can they write up a contract, which when it comes to chattel is not a legitimate form of kinyan. Okay, it's just a commitment to in the future purchase. He's committing himself to go through with the deal, but he doesn't take possession of the chametz through the signing of the contract. The chol zman shehu adayin tachas yad hamocher, ein haYisrael over alav mishum bal yerah. So as long as it's not physically in the possession of the Jew is not in violation of bal yerah, bal yimatzeh, of owning chametz in over Pesach.
I might be kind of at a real life example about that, because in advance of during Chol HaMoed, could you buy online groceries to have them delivered after Pesach?
Right. So I'll get to that in just a second. Let me just finish the sentence. Da'dayin lo nikna lo hadavar, the lo haya beinehem rak inyan shel hischayvus limkor v'liknos. He says the object has not yet transferred ownership from the seller to the buyer, and therefore all that the Jew has done is indicated that he's committing himself to buy. V'nechleku ha'achronim, okay, period. So to Paul's very pertinent point, which is that this year we had a great example of that. It's 100% right. This was a shaila that I had received, and I had actually published something in the daily email because people had asked me this shaila. The shaila that people had asked, and the Rav Hershel Schachter was asked this shaila as well. And I wanted to be extra cautious because when you make an online purchase, you submit your credit card and it says, and then you come up to the screen that says, okay, your order. So usually with Amazon and with other stores, online stores, they call it an order, because what an order is that Amazon always has the opportunity to cancel the order if they don't have the object in stock, or if something else happens. And the buyer also has the opportunity to cancel the order until it actually ships. So that was, to me, the criterion. And I think for Rabbi Schachter also, it also implied that, until the object actually ships, you can always cancel the order. So, but once it ships, you can't cancel the order. Now, the question is, at what point does it become yours? So it's questionable. If they draw the money off of your credit card, then the seller has already received the money. And in that situation, it could be that you do become the owner, at least midioraisa, we say mos konos. So therefore, there has to be the opportunity for you to for you to be able to cancel it because they haven't yet shipped or they haven't yet delivered it. And so it becomes a little bit more ambiguous, let's say, when it's a pickup order. Let's say a pickup order from Sobeys or from the superstore, and you put in your order for challahs on Chol HaMoed to pick up, especially because the day after Pesach was a Friday, right? So you have to have the opportunity. So in that situation, did they charge your credit card or not? And if they did, one could arguably say, even though they've charged your credit card, but it wasn't in exchange for any specific chametz goods. It was for the opportunity for you to pick up a challah on Friday. So there, Rav Schachter was also lenient, and he said that as long as it's not specifically indicated which item of chametz you're purchasing for after Pesach, then it would be okay. So even if they end up charging your credit card, as long as there's no specific chametz item that they charge your credit card for, but let's say there's they make 500 challahs, and you're going to pick up one of them. So until you actually take possession of the challah, you haven't purchased, you haven't acquired any specific challah, and therefore it's okay for them to even charge your credit card in that scenario. But in a scenario where they've actually shipped a chametz item, if they've shipped it on Pesach, that taka might be an issue. That taka could be an issue, that once they ship it, they've designated which chametz item is yours on Pesach. They've charged your credit card, so you've paid for it. And it could be very well be that would be an issue. So we basically, what we said when we issued our email, because it could be potentially very, very confusing, is that we said that you have to be able to cancel the order Thursday night in order for you to be able to purchase, which was Motzoi Pesach. If you can still cancel it Thursday night after Pesach, then you're permitted to order it on Pesach. But if by Thursday night it'll already be too late to cancel the order, so then it's going to be a problem. Okay. Now, okay, we'll skip the last part. And what I want to do is go back up into the actual text. And so that's our discussion of Mishpat. So remember, Mishpat is when money has been exchanged, but the goods have not been exchanged. The deal is not consummated, and yet it's wrong for either party to back out once money has been exchanged. But nonetheless, it is legally within the right of either party to do so, even though it's wrong to do so. It's so wrong that you get a curse if you end up backing out. But we can't stop you, but we can curse you, which is an unusual kind of area within halacha. In other words, if you go to the Rav and the Rav says, you ask the Rav, what should I do? The Rav would say, listen, it's not right. You don't own the object that you want to back out on, but it's not right to back out on it at this point. But he should also tell you, technically, that you are within your legal rights. But realize that you're going to get cursed if you do it. Okay. It's very different. Let me just point out, it's very different from, Rabbi, am I allowed to do this on Shabbos? Or Rabbi, is the chicken kosher? It's a totally different category when it comes to Choshen Mishpat. It's the Rabbi, the Rabbi can't tell you asur or mutter. He can tell you, you don't own it, it's not yours, but you'll get cursed if you don't take possession of it and go through with the deal. Go ahead, Paul.
I don't know. It just seems to me that the word curse seems actually worse then you're over an avera, bring a korban, do tshuva, whatever. Like a curse seems like something that sort of stays with you and could impact your life and your family's life. Like it seems like you want to stay away from even more than doing something that's sort of over an avera, but something that you could sort of fix or whatever. I just from the sound of the word curse. Am I wrong?
Uh, no, I don't think you're wrong, but here's the point. The point is that when it comes to money, the halacha grants every individual autonomy to use his assets in the way that his conscience guides him, right? Under certain legal conditions, right? In other words, we don't give you the point is that greater autonomy is granted to the individual to make those decisions for himself. But realize that there are consequences. When it comes to other halachic issues, you don't have the same level of autonomy because it's much more clear cut whether it's usur or mutter. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So we go back into the text of the Rav Shulchan Aruch. He says, even though the Rav said the Rav Shulchan Aruch, Ein tzarich lekabel im lo nasan ma'os, he says you don't even have to accept a curse of mishapara if no money was exchanged. But if two people made an oral contract, hare hachozer bo mimechusare amana. Anyone who goes back on the deal is considered to be acting in bad faith. Ve'ein ruach chachamim nocha himenu, and the spirit of the sages does not get pleasure from him. Ki roi la'adam la'amod b'diburo, because every person should fulfill his word. And then he quotes a pasuk, Kamo shekasav sheris Yisrael lo yasu avla v'lo yadabru chazav, that the remnant of Israel, and that et cetera, and will not speak falsehood. Okay, so that was the text of the Rav Shulchan Aruch. Now let's take a look at the Imrei Yaakov, which is like the Mishnah Berurah, as I've explained before. So he says like this: Hare hachozer bo. Does everyone see my cursor, where I'm moving it around so you can see where we are exactly? Hare hachozer bo, bein halokeach uvein hamocher. Anyone who goes back on the deal, i.e., either the seller or the buyer, if they do so, they are acting in good faith. Mimuchusari amana. And he writes, V'yesh bazeh isura. It is considered to be something that is prohibited. Vishari, and we continue along, Vishari likroso avrayana virasha. And you're even allowed to call him a sinner and a bad person, a rasha, if he's not going to fulfill his word. Now, the imba lachzarbo, tzarech habeistin lomar lo sha'asr lachzarbo. And if a person already entered into an oral contract and he wants to retract, and he asks the Beis-Din, am I permitted to do this? They have to tell him, no, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to go back on your word. You already made an oral contract. But technically, he was still within his legal rights of going back on a contract. V'tzarech iyun im davar zeh shayach b'ish ani v'nimtza b'matzav dachuk. It really requires further analysis if the law of the mechusar amana, of acting in bad faith, applies to a poor man who doesn't have sufficient money to be able to go ahead in the deal. In other words, there may be mitigating circumstances, and we'll see more about this situation of mitigating circumstances, which permits a person to go back on an oral contract, even though normally we say that an oral contract, you're supposed to make your word your bond, you're supposed to follow through with your commitments. Nonetheless, there may be mitigating circumstances. And so therefore we go to the next piece. Ve'ein ruach chachamim noicha himenu. The spirit of the sages does not get pleasure from you. Pirush, what does this term mean? Ein nachas ruach lechachme Yisrael b'ma'asav shel zeh. The chachamim do not get nachas ruach, which is a sense of pleasure from your actions. Ve'ein daitem nocha bishvilo. And their thoughts are not at peace because of what you've done. V'hani mili kishalo nishtana hashar. Okay, so essentially, you see the language is also, again, very, very unusual from what we would normally see in Orach Chaim or Yoredeya. In Orach Chaim and Yoredeya, it's black and white. It's usser or mutter. It's, but here, what we're saying is that if, what you did was wrong, what you did was even to the point of us saying that it's usser for you to do that. But we also recognize that once you go back on your word on an oral contract, there are no recriminations. There are no reprisals that can be brought against you. No one can sue you in court. In other words, what you may have done that's between you and God, whether or not you choose to fulfill your oral contract. But that oral contract that was between two parties, between Reuven and Shimon, there are no reprisals against you if you go back on your word. And so you also have to realize there are no curses, there are no reprisals whatsoever, but we're not happy with you. We're not happy with you. In other words, we're not going to give you shishi this Shabbos in the shul for as a kavod, because this is not what an Erlich Yid does. Make oral contracts with another Yid in the community and then go back on the deal. But v'hani mili kishalo nishtana hashar. But realize that that's only true when there wasn't a significant change in market value. Aval in nishtana hashar shenisyaker v'rotza hamocher lachzor. But let's say there was a commodity that the buyer and seller entered into an oral contract for, and then in the interim, the commodity goes way up in value. So now the seller wants to go back and say, listen, I can't sell it to you at that price anymore. It's worth twice that amount. Ohuzal v'rotza hakona lachzor. Or maybe it goes way down in value. Two guys in the community are in the oil commodity business, oil trading. And you see what happened with OPEC and the Russians, that oil prices went way down. So they had made an oral agreement that they were going to buy it, pay $25 or $50 a barrel, and then it went all the way down to, what is it now, $20 a barrel? I don't even know what oil is at right now. So the buyer wants to back out. He says, listen, I can't pay you $50 a barrel if it's only worth $20 a barrel now. What's going on? So he says, Nechleku bazeh poskim. He says the poskim are in disagreement over here as to what the law should be. The yesh omrim de'in zeh mimechusari amana, the yesh omrim dafilu bazeh asr lachzor. He says some say that it is mechusar amana, and some say that it's not mechusar amana. In other words, some say that you're not acting in bad faith. You're not a bad actor in this situation, because the reason why you only made an oral contract and you didn't make a complete contract is because things like this happen. But some say that no, if you expected that this could happen, or you should have anticipated that this could happen, and you nevertheless entered into an oral agreement, then you are acting in bad faith. In other words, there's two ways to look at it. One way to look at it is a guy can say, yes, I made an agreement, but the facts on the ground changed. And so therefore, I'm not a bad guy for going back on my word. The other way of looking at it is, you should have anticipated that things like this do happen. So you should have made a stipulation in your oral contract, and you should have said, not that I'm going to buy this from you at $50 a barrel, but I will buy it from you at fair market value, or we'll agree that this deal will go through, but only if the market doesn't significantly shift, that things don't shift in price. And if you didn't do that, so that's why there's this difference of opinion. We'll quickly take a look at this in the Shulchan Aruch so that you can see the text for yourself. Let me just bring it up now.
Rabbi, while you're looking there, I just wanted to ask you something that might be relevant to this here. It's certainly happening with ourselves and probably many others, where this year, because of all the simchas that have to be canceled because of the corona, so caterers and all sorts of people in the whole simcha industry, basically, where down payments have been given, where handshakes have been given, all sorts of things. How does this play into this?
Yeah, I think that that the argument of a person acting in bad faith by going back on a deal is also, I think that, so first of all, what if there's only an oral agreement made, or there's a contract that's signed saying that I'm going to pay you, it will all depend upon the legality of the contract. There are certain contracts that are structured in such a way where when a person signs that contract, it sort of says that anything short of, a nuclear catastrophe will make me obligated to follow through with this payment. And then, and then the vendor would have the advantage, the seller would have the advantage. But if a person just puts down a down payment and then then the vendor says, okay, we have to cancel the program, so the vendor may have to give back the money. It all depends. Like I think this was asked before, it all depends on the nature of the contract and what kind of deal was structured, and that's ultimately what it's going to boil down to. In so many different circumstances, you have to look at how the deal was structured, how they entered into the agreement, what stipulations were made in advance to determine who is responsible, who is the liable party should something occur to make this deal not possible to follow through with it, right? So if there was only an oral agreement between two parties, I'm going to go to your Pesach program, and then all of a sudden the Pesach program has to be canceled, then obviously there's no mishapara, there's no mishapara because there was no money exchanged. Is there a mechusar amana? It would seem not, because this was totally unanticipated that such a situation would ever come up. So there can be no recriminations from the buyer to the seller. I was hoping to go away for Pesach. What do you mean you were hoping to go away for Pesach? No one's going away for Pesach. So it's not the seller's fault and it's not the buyer's fault in that case. No one's going away for Pesach. No one can hold anyone else liable. The only thing that has to be decided is, what about all of the expenditures that the vendor made in order to run his Pesach program? Who assumes the financial burden of that? Does the vendor, the guy setting up the Pesach, does he have to assume the entire burden of that? Or should people who put down payments share in the burden of a program having to be canceled through no fault of the vendor, through no fault of the consumer? Who should assume the financial burdens of the complete collapse of the Pesach program industry due to a pandemic, right? So that's not so easy to determine, and then you have to go back to the paperwork, and then people have to be menschlich with each other, and so you sort of have to compromise on that. Okay, I was speaking I was corresponding with a member by email, and she was telling me that the vendor of her canceled Pesach program was giving back 80% of people's deposits and was keeping 20%. I thought that seemed very reasonable, but she said, "Oh no, that's okay for everyone else, all the other suckers, but I'm not going to let that happen." And she made such a nuisance of herself until the guy gave her back her full amount. I'm not convinced that I would be proud of that. She was very proud of the fact that she was able to get all her money back. I'm not so sure that I would. I mean, I didn't comment on it, but she wanted to share. She was sharing with me her pride in getting all her money back. So I'm not so sure. Anyway, I mean, it's one thing if the Pesach vendor, right, let's say, cancels the program at the last minute when all of the other Pesach programs are going on across the world, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get the necessary number of customers to be able to operate at a profit, so he decided to cancel a week before Pesach. Then I think that the liability should lie mostly with the vendor, and he should give back everything, because it's not, I'm ready, hineni muchana mezuman, I'm ready to come to your program. You shouldn't be canceling a week before Pesach. You should give everyone back all of their money, and you should take it as a loss, whatever you had to put out to your suppliers and to your hotels, right? But anyway, every situation is different.
Rabbi, can I just one small nuance on that, and I'm not sure about the details and how it would work. There's such a thing as business interruption insurance, and insurance you can get for things beyond your control that could happen, that would compensate a provider of an event or a business if something were to happen. So there's perhaps an onus in order to purchase that too.
Possibly. I sometimes such insurance is not even available in all situations.
Right, and it may be excluded for something like a pandemic.
Right.
Possibly too.
Yeah. Correct.
Rabbi, I'd be interested in knowing what you thought about like these government programs where, you know, let's say someone doesn't give back the money and then the government gives the money to the provider. Do you think that has anything to do with whether the provider should give the money to me, who was supposed to go to the event? Let's say I lost all my money, and then the government gives him back all his money.
Well, obviously that would play a role. If he's able to leave whole, then obviously that's not fair that I should be the only party out of pocket, and the vendor is not out of pocket. I mean, there's so many different permutations of this. Okay, we'll pick it up in Mirz Hashem tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Right, Rabbi.
We'll
Thank you, Rabbi.
look at the Shulchan Aruch tomorrow, Mirz Hashem.
Thank you,
so
Rabbi.
much. Take care.